Question 1. A multinational technology firm, Innovatech Solutions, has established a comprehensive enterprise risk management framework aligned with ISO 31000-2018. While they effectively manage operational and financial risks, a recent product recall due to a subtle design flaw, which was not initially flagged as a significant reputational risk, has led to widespread public distrust and a substantial decline in market share. Analysis of the post-recall stakeholder feedback indicates that the communication strategy during the crisis, rather than the product defect itself, was the primary driver of reputational damage. Which of the following approaches best reflects the integration of reputational risk management principles within Innovatech's existing framework, as advocated by ISO 31000-2018 to prevent similar future occurrences? Option A. Classifying all previously identified risks that have a potential indirect impact on reputation as reputational risks and assigning them to a new risk category for specialized management. Option B. Enhancing the risk criteria for evaluating all identified risks to explicitly include stakeholder perception and trust as a consequence, and ensuring risk treatment plans address communication strategies for potential negative events. Option C. Establishing a separate, dedicated reputational risk management committee to oversee all matters pertaining to the company's public image, independent of the existing committee. Option D. Primarily focusing risk identification efforts on external media monitoring and social media sentiment analysis, with minimal changes to the internal risk assessment and treatment processes. Correct answer is B. Enhancing the risk criteria for evaluating all identified risks to explicitly include stakeholder perception and trust as a consequence, and ensuring risk treatment plans address communication strategies for potential negative events. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that risk management is an integral part of an organization's overall governance and management processes. When considering the integration of reputational risk management with the broader risk management framework, the standard highlights that reputation is an asset that can be significantly impacted by the realization of risks across various categories, not just those explicitly labeled as reputational. Effective integration means that the processes for identifying, analyzing, evaluating, treating, and monitoring risks should explicitly consider the potential impact on the organization's reputation. This involves understanding how operational failures, financial irregularities, compliance breaches, strategic missteps, or even positive events handled poorly can affect stakeholder perceptions, and consequently, the organization's standing. The standard advocates for a holistic approach where the consequences of any risk event are assessed not only in terms of direct financial or operational impact, but also through the lens of reputational damage. This requires a clear understanding of stakeholder expectations and the drivers of reputation. Therefore, the most effective integration involves embedding reputational considerations into the existing risk management processes, ensuring that the criteria for risk evaluation and the selection of risk treatments adequately address the potential for reputational harm, rather than treating reputational risk as a separate, siloed activity. This ensures that the organization's commitment to managing risks proactively extends to safeguarding its most valuable intangible asset. Question 2. Consider an organization that experienced a significant operational disruption due to a cybersecurity breach, which was identified as a high-probability, high-impact risk, but was inadequately treated. Following the incident, a thorough post-event review identified that the risk treatment plan for this specific threat was never fully implemented due to resource constraints and a lack of clear accountability. According to the principles of ISO 31000-2018, what is the most critical step to ensure that such a failure does not recur in the future, specifically in relation to learning from the event? Option A. Integrating the lessons learned from the incident into the fundamental design and execution of the risk management framework, including resource allocation and accountability structures for risk treatment. Option B. Establishing a dedicated incident response team with enhanced authority to bypass standard approval processes for immediate risk mitigation. Option C. Conducting a comprehensive review of the organization's entire risk appetite statement and updating it based on the incident's severity. Option D. Revising the risk register to reflect the actual impact of the breach and reprioritizing it. Correct answer is D. Revising the risk register to reflect the actual impact of the breach and reprioritizing it. Explanation: the core principle of learning from past events, especially failures, within a risk management framework as outlined in ISO 31000-2018 involves a systematic process of review and adaptation. When a risk event or a near miss occurs, the organization must first analyze the event to understand its root causes and contributing factors. This analysis should go beyond superficial explanations to identify systemic weaknesses or gaps in the risk management process itself. Subsequently, the insights gained from this analysis need to be integrated back into the organization's risk management framework. This integration is not merely about updating a risk register. It involves refining the risk identification methods, improving the accuracy of risk assessment criteria, enhancing the effectiveness of risk treatment plans, and strengthening the overall monitoring and review mechanisms. The ultimate goal is to foster a culture of continuous improvement, ensuring that the organization becomes more resilient and better equipped to manage future uncertainties. This proactive adaptation, driven by empirical learning from incidents, is a hallmark of mature risk management. Question 3. A mid-sized investment bank, operating under stringent financial regulations like the Dodd-Frank Act and Basel Roman III, is seeking to enhance its risk management capabilities in alignment with ISO 31000-2018. The institution has a mature risk assessment process, but struggles with consistently embedding risk considerations into strategic decision-making and daily operational activities across all departments. What approach would be most effective for this institution to achieve a more integrated and value-creating risk management system, as per the ISO 31000-2018 guidelines? Option A. Develop a comprehensive risk management policy that explicitly mandates the integration of risk appetite statements into all strategic planning and operational procedures, supported by targeted training for all personnel on their roles in risk management. Option B. Establish a dedicated risk management committee with broad authority to override operational decisions that are deemed to carry excessive risk, independent of the strategic objectives of the institution. Option C. Conduct an extensive review of all existing compliance documentation to ensure adherence to regulatory mandates, assuming that regulatory compliance inherently covers all aspects of ISO 31000-2018 risk management. Option D. Implement a new, advanced risk modeling software package that can automatically identify and quantify all potential risks, thereby reducing the need for human oversight in risk management processes. The correct answer is A. Develop a comprehensive risk management policy that explicitly mandates the integration of risk appetite statements into all strategic planning and operational procedures, supported by targeted training for all personnel on their roles in risk management. Explanation: the fundamental principle of ISO 31000-2018 is the integration of risk management into an organization's governance, strategy, and operations. This integration is not a separate activity, but a continuous process that informs decision-making at all levels. The standard emphasizes that risk management should be proportionate to the potential impact and complexity of the activities undertaken. In the context of financial services, which are heavily regulated and operate in a dynamic environment, this means that the risk management framework must be robust enough to address a wide spectrum of risks, including financial, operational, compliance, strategic, and reputational risks. The guidelines advocate for a systematic approach involving establishing the context, risk assessment, identification, analysis and evaluation, risk treatment, monitoring and review, and communication and consultation. The core idea is to create and protect value by proactively managing uncertainty. Therefore, the most effective approach for a financial institution seeking to embed risk management according to ISO 31000-2018 would involve aligning its risk appetite with strategic objectives and ensuring that risk management activities are a natural part of daily business processes and decision-making, rather than a standalone compliance exercise. This holistic integration ensures that risk considerations are embedded in the organizational culture and inform all aspects of its operations and strategic planning, thereby enhancing resilience and performance. Question 4. When preparing a risk report for the governing body of a multinational corporation operating in the highly regulated financial services sector, Which of the following content elements is most crucial for enabling strategic decision-making regarding the organization's overall risk appetite and tolerance levels, as per the principles of ISO 31000-2018? Option A. An integrated assessment of the effectiveness of existing risk controls in relation to the organization's key strategic objectives and the impact of residual risks on achieving those objectives. Option B. A summary of recent internal audit findings related to the risk management process, focusing on procedural compliance rather than risk outcomes. Option C. A detailed inventory of all identified risks across all operational units, categorized by likelihood and impact, without specific reference to strategic goals. Option D. A comprehensive list of all risk treatment plans currently in development or execution, irrespective of their alignment with the current risk appetite. The correct answer is A. An integrated assessment of the effectiveness of existing risk controls in relation to the organization's key strategic objectives and the impact of residual risks on achieving those objectives. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that risk reports should be tailored to the needs of the recipient and the purpose of the communication. Clause 5.4.3. Communication and consultation, and Annex A, specifically A. 4.3.2. Reporting and review, highlight the importance of providing information that enables informed decision-making. A comprehensive risk report, particularly for senior management or governing bodies, should include an overview of the risk management framework's implementation, the significant risks identified and their potential impact, the effectiveness of controls and proposed actions or treatments. It should also detail the methodology used for risk assessment and the criteria for determining risk levels. The report's content should facilitate understanding of the organization's risk profile and guide strategic choices. Focusing solely on the identification of risks without context on their management or the framework's performance would be insufficient. Similarly, a report that only lists control activities without assessing their effectiveness in mitigating identified risks would lack critical insight. While an audit of the risk management process is valuable, it is a separate output and not the primary content of a risk report itself. The core purpose is to inform about the current risk landscape and the effectiveness of management strategies. Question 5. A multinational technology firm, Innovatech Solutions, is developing a new artificial intelligence-driven product. Recent geopolitical shifts and rapid advancements in quantum computing present potential future challenges and opportunities that are not yet fully quantifiable or understood. According to ISO 31000-2018 guidelines, which of the following approaches best reflects the organization's responsibility in managing these emergent risks within its established risk management framework? Option A. Rely solely on external regulatory bodies to identify and communicate the implications of quantum computing and geopolitical shifts, assuming their guidance will sufficiently inform Innovatech's risk management strategy. Option B. Integrate a continuous horizon scanning process that actively seeks out and analyzes novel technological and geopolitical developments, incorporating findings into strategic planning and risk treatment decisions to adapt the existing framework. Option C. Establish a separate, ad hoc committee to exclusively address these emerging risks, operating independently from the main risk management framework to avoid disrupting current operational risk assessments. Option D. Defer the assessment of these potential risks until their impact becomes more concrete and measurable, focusing current resources on managing known, quantifiable risks as per the existing risk register. The correct answer is B. Integrate a continuous horizon scanning process that actively seeks out and analyzes novel technological and geopolitical developments, incorporating findings into strategic planning and risk treatment decisions to adapt the existing framework. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes the dynamic nature of risk and the importance of considering emerging risks, which are new or evolving risks that may not yet be fully understood or have a significant impact. The standard advocates for a proactive approach to risk management, which includes scanning the horizon for potential future threats and opportunities. This involves systematic identification processes that look beyond immediate known risks. When addressing emerging risks, organizations must leverage their risk management framework to adapt and incorporate these new considerations. This often involves enhancing data analysis capabilities, fostering innovation, and engaging with external stakeholders to gain diverse perspectives. The goal is to integrate the understanding and treatment of emerging risks into the organization's strategic decision-making and operational processes, ensuring resilience and the ability to capitalize on future uncertainties. This proactive stance is crucial for long-term sustainability and competitive advantage, as it allows organizations to anticipate and respond to changes before they become critical issues. Question 6. When considering the principle that risk management is an integral part of all organizational processes, according to ISO 31000-2018, which of the following best exemplifies this integration within a multinational technology firm developing a new product under strict regulatory oversight from bodies like the FDA and EMA? Option A. The product development team proactively incorporates potential regulatory compliance risks into the design and testing phases, conducting scenario analyses for hypothetical noncompliance events, and building mitigation strategies directly into the product architecture and validation protocols. Option B. The legal counsel reviews the product's marketing materials for potential liability risks after the product has been finalized and is ready for launch. Option C. A dedicated risk management department conducts a comprehensive risk assessment of the new product development project annually, submitting a report to senior management that outlines identified risks and proposed controls. Option D. The internal audit team performs a post-implementation review of the product launch to identify any significant risks that materialize during the market introduction phase. The correct answer is A. The product development team proactively incorporates potential regulatory compliance risks into the design and testing phases, conducting scenario analyses for hypothetical noncompliance events, and building mitigation strategies directly into the product architecture and validation protocols. Explanation. The fundamental principle of ISO 31000-2018 regarding the integration of risk management is that it should be an intrinsic part of all organizational activities, decisions, and processes, not a separate or add-on function. This means that risk management considerations should be embedded within strategic planning, operational execution, project management, and even day-to-day decision-making at all levels. It is not something that is done only during specific risk assessments or audits. The standard emphasizes that risk management should be part of the organization's culture and contribute to achieving objectives. When risk management is truly integrated, it influences how activities are designed, implemented, and reviewed, ensuring that potential threats and opportunities are considered proactively throughout the entire life cycle of any endeavor. This integration helps to ensure that risk management is effective, efficient, and adds value to the organization by supporting informed decision-making and the achievement of its goals. It is about making risk-aware thinking a natural and habitual part of how the organization operates. Question 7. A global health crisis, such as a novel infectious disease outbreak, presents significant systemic risks to an organization's operations, supply chains, and workforce. According to ISO 31000-2018, how should an organization best ensure that the management of such a complex and evolving risk is fundamentally embedded within its governance and decision-making structures, rather than treated as a separate, isolated compliance exercise? Option A. By establishing a dedicated pandemic response committee with broad executive representation that regularly reviews risk registers and mandates specific mitigation actions across all departments. Option B. By developing a comprehensive business continuity plan that outlines detailed operational procedures for various pandemic scenarios, with a focus on immediate response and recovery. Option C. By integrating risk management principles into the organization's strategic objectives and daily operational processes, ensuring leadership actively champions risk-aware decision-making, and that risk appetite is clearly communicated and understood. Option D. By conducting regular scenario-based risk assessments and simulations specifically for biological threats, using advanced predictive modeling to forecast potential impacts and resource needs. The correct answer is A. By establishing a dedicated pandemic response committee with broad executive representation that regularly reviews risk registers and mandates specific mitigation actions across all departments. Explanation. The core principle of ISO 31000-2018 regarding the integration of risk management into an organization's governance and decision-making processes emphasizes that risk management should be an integral part of all organizational activities, including strategic planning, operations, and project management. When considering a widespread biological event like a pandemic, the guidelines stress the importance of establishing a framework that is embedded within the organization's culture and decision-making structures. This ensures that risk considerations are not an afterthought but a continuous and proactive element. The standard advocates for a systematic approach that involves leadership commitment, clear roles and responsibilities, and the integration of risk management into the organization's overall governance. Specifically, the guidelines highlight that effective risk management is a responsibility of leadership and that it should be integrated into the organization's culture, thereby influencing behavior and decision-making at all levels. This integration facilitates a comprehensive understanding and response to potential disruptions, ensuring that the organization can adapt and maintain its objectives even under severe stress. The emphasis is on a proactive, embedded, and systematic approach rather than a reactive or siloed one. Question 8. A multinational corporation, Ether Dynamics, has completed a comprehensive risk assessment for its new product launch in the European market, adhering to the principles outlined in ISO 31000-2018. The internal audit team is reviewing the risk assessment report. They note that while the report clearly lists identified risks, their potential impacts and likelihoods, it lacks a detailed explanation of the specific risk evaluation criteria used to determine the significance of each risk. Additionally, the report does not explicitly state the assumptions made during the analysis of regulatory compliance risks related to the GDPR. Considering the requirements for effective risk communication and decision-making, as per ISO 31000-2018, what is the most significant deficiency in Ether Dynamics' risk assessment report? Option A. Insufficient detail regarding the specific risk evaluation criteria and underlying assumptions, hindering a clear understanding of the risk prioritization and the rationale for proposed treatments. Option B. The absence of a detailed action plan for risk treatment, which is a mandatory component of any risk assessment report according to the standard. Option C. The omission of a comparative analysis of the identified risks against industry benchmarks, preventing Ether Dynamics from assessing its relative risk exposure. Option D. The report's failure to include a quantitative analysis of all identified risks, which is essential for robust risk management as stipulated by ISO 31000-2018. The correct answer is A. Insufficient detail regarding the specific risk evaluation criteria and underlying assumptions, hindering a clear understanding of the risk prioritization and the rationale for proposed treatments. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that the risk assessment report is a crucial output of the risk assessment process, serving as a foundation for decision-making regarding risk treatment. It is not merely a compilation of identified risks and their levels, but a comprehensive document that facilitates understanding and action. The report should articulate the context established, the methods used for risk identification, analysis, and evaluation, and importantly, the criteria against which risks were evaluated. It should also clearly present the results of the risk assessment, including the level of risk and the rationale behind this determination. Furthermore, the report should detail any assumptions made, limitations encountered during the assessment, and potential sources of error or bias. The communication of these findings to relevant stakeholders is paramount, enabling them to comprehend the risk landscape and the basis for proposed actions. The report's value lies in its ability to inform the selection and implementation of risk treatments and to support the continuous improvement of the risk management framework. It should also highlight areas where further information or analysis may be required, guiding future risk management activities. The report's structure and content are designed to ensure transparency, consistency, and a clear audit trail of the risk assessment process. Question 9. An organization is reviewing its risk management process, particularly its recording and reporting mechanisms, to ensure alignment with ISO 31000-2018 principles. They have identified that while risk registers are maintained, the information flow to senior management regarding the efficacy of risk treatments and the identification of new, emerging threats is inconsistent and often lacks actionable detail. This leads to reactive rather than proactive decision-making regarding risk mitigation strategies. Which aspect of risk management recording and reporting, as outlined by ISO 31000-2018, is most likely being inadequately addressed, thereby hindering the organization's ability to proactively manage its risk landscape. Option A. Establishing clear communication channels for reporting risk-related information to all relevant internal and external stakeholders. Option B. Maintaining a comprehensive and up-to-date risk register that accurately reflects all identified risks and their associated controls. Option C. Ensuring that risk management reporting provides insights into the effectiveness of risk treatments and identifies emerging risks to support informed decision-making. Option D. Documenting the risk management process itself, including policies, procedures, and responsibilities for audit and review purposes. The correct answer is C. Ensuring that risk management reporting provides insights into the effectiveness of risk treatments and identifies emerging risks to support informed decision-making. Explanation: ISO 31000/2018 emphasizes that the effectiveness of risk management is contingent upon the quality and timeliness of information communicated to relevant stakeholders. Recording and reporting are critical components of the risk management framework, ensuring that decisions are informed and that the process is continually improved. The standard highlights that the scope, detail, and frequency of risk management reporting should be tailored to the needs of the intended audience and the specific context of the organization. This includes reporting on the outcomes of risk treatment, the performance of risk management processes, and emerging risks. Effective reporting facilitates accountability, supports decision-making at all levels, and fosters a risk-aware culture. The reporting process should capture relevant information about risks, their causes, consequences, likelihood, and the effectiveness of controls. It is not merely about documenting incidents, but about providing insights that enable proactive management and strategic alignment. For instance, reporting on near misses, even if they did not result in actual harm, provides valuable data for refining risk controls and preventing future occurrences. Similarly, reporting on the effectiveness of implemented risk treatments allows for an assessment of whether the chosen treatments are achieving their intended objectives, and if further action is required. The standard suggests that reporting should also consider the communication of risk appetite and tolerance levels to ensure that risk-taking activities remain within acceptable boundaries. The integration of risk information into broader organizational reporting structures, such as financial or operational reports, enhances the visibility and importance of risk management. Question 10. Consider a global logistics firm, Trans-Global Freight, that relies heavily on a proprietary fleet management software developed in-house over a decade ago. A new AI-driven logistics optimization platform is rapidly gaining market share, promising significant efficiency gains and cost reductions that could render Trans-Global's current system obsolete within 2 to 3 years. Furthermore, recent intelligence suggests a state-sponsored actor may be probing the cybersecurity vulnerabilities of older, legacy software systems. According to ISO 31000/2018 principles, which of the following actions best exemplifies the integration of risk management into strategic decision-making to address these technological disruption risks? Option A. Initiating a comprehensive review of the existing fleet management software's architecture and potential upgrade pathways, while simultaneously forming a cross-functional task force to evaluate the emerging AI platforms and develop a phased adoption strategy for new technologies, including a robust cybersecurity hardening plan for legacy systems. Option B. Immediately decommissioning the in-house software and investing heavily in the leading AI-driven platform, without a thorough assessment of integration challenges or potential data migration risks, to preemptively capture market advantage. Option C. Delegating the responsibility for monitoring technological advancements to the IT department's operational team and instructing them to report any significant disruptions only when they directly impact service delivery. Option D. Focusing solely on enhancing the cybersecurity defenses of the current software to mitigate the immediate threat of state-sponsored actors, while deferring any strategic decisions about platform modernization until the competitive threat from AI becomes more pronounced. Correct answer is A. Initiating a comprehensive review of the existing fleet management software's architecture and potential upgrade pathways, while simultaneously forming a cross-functional task force to evaluate the emerging AI platforms and develop a phased adoption strategy for new technologies, including a robust cybersecurity hardening plan for legacy systems. Explanation: ISO 2018 emphasizes that risk management is an integral part of an organization's governance and leadership. When considering technological disruptions, such as the sudden obsolescence of a core software platform due to a competitor's breakthrough or a critical cybersecurity breach that compromises proprietary algorithms, an organization must ensure its risk management framework is robust and adaptable. The guidelines advocate for integrating risk management into decision-making processes at all levels. This involves not just identifying potential technological threats, but also understanding their potential impact on objectives, evaluating their likelihood, and determining appropriate treatment strategies. A key aspect is the continuous monitoring and review of risks and the effectiveness of treatments. In the context of technological disruption, this means staying abreast of emerging technologies, assessing their potential to either create new risks or mitigate existing ones, and ensuring that the organization's capacity to respond to unforeseen technological shifts is continually enhanced. The framework promotes a proactive approach, encouraging organizations to anticipate and prepare for disruptive events rather than merely reacting to them. This includes fostering a culture that encourages innovation and learning, which are crucial for navigating the dynamic landscape of technological change. The ultimate goal is to achieve and protect value by managing uncertainty effectively, ensuring the organization's resilience and ability to capitalize on opportunities presented by technological advancements. Question 11. In the context of ISO 31000-2018, an organization is developing its risk management reporting structure. Considering the standard's emphasis on demonstrating the effectiveness of the risk management framework and facilitating continual improvement, what is the most appropriate and comprehensive approach for the content of risk management records and reports? Option A. Documenting all significant activities and outcomes of the risk management process, including risk identification, analysis, evaluation, treatment, monitoring, and review findings, to support oversight and learning. Option B. Maintaining records solely of risk treatment plans and their implementation status, with reports exclusively containing financial implications of identified risks. Option C. Primarily focusing reports on major identified risks and their mitigation strategies, with records limited to high-level summaries of risk appetite statements. Option D. Creating detailed reports on every minor risk identified, regardless of its potential impact, and maintaining records of all communications related to risk discussions. The correct answer is A. Documenting all significant activities and outcomes of the risk management process, including risk identification, analysis, evaluation, treatment, monitoring, and review findings, to support oversight and learning. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that records and reports are crucial for demonstrating the effectiveness of the risk management framework and process. Clause 5, 4, 3, communication and consultation, and Clause 5, 6, monitoring and review, highlight the importance of maintaining appropriate records. Specifically, the standard suggests that records should cover the risk management process activities, decisions made, and outcomes. This includes documentation of risk identification, analysis, evaluation, treatment, and monitoring. Reports, on the other hand, are intended to communicate risk management information to relevant stakeholders. The content of these reports should be tailored to the audience and purpose, but generally includes an overview of the risk management activities undertaken, significant risks identified and their treatment, and the effectiveness of the controls. The standard also implies that records and reports should support the continual improvement of the risk management process. Therefore, the most comprehensive approach to records and reports, as implied by the standard's focus on demonstrability and improvement, is to document all significant activities and outcomes of the risk management process to support oversight and learning. Question 12. An offshore wind farm operator, situated in a region experiencing increasingly severe storm surges and higher wind velocities attributed to climate change, is reviewing its risk management framework in alignment with ISO 31000-2018. Considering the dynamic nature of environmental threats and the need for long-term operational integrity, which of the following approaches best embodies the integration of risk management principles with enhanced resilience and adaptive capacity for such critical energy infrastructure? Option A. Implementing a one-time comprehensive risk assessment followed by the development of static mitigation plans, assuming that initial controls will remain effective against future environmental changes. Option B. Prioritizing technological upgrades to existing turbines as the sole method of risk treatment, without a systematic process for evaluating the effectiveness of these upgrades against the full spectrum of identified risks. Option C. Primarily focusing on insuring against potential physical damage, with risk management efforts limited to compliance with current industry safety regulations, without proactive adaptation. Option D. Establishing a continuous feedback loop, where monitoring and review of risk treatments directly inform updates to the risk assessment and the organization's adaptive strategies in response to evolving environmental conditions. The correct answer is D. Establishing a continuous feedback loop where monitoring and review of risk treatments directly inform updates to the risk assessment and the organization's adaptive strategies in response to evolving environmental conditions. Explanation: the core of effective risk management within the energy sector, particularly concerning critical infrastructure like offshore wind farms, lies in integrating risk assessment with the principles of resilience and adaptation. ISO 31000/2018 emphasizes a systematic approach that involves establishing the context, performing risk assessment, identification, analysis, evaluation, treating risks, and then monitoring and reviewing. For an offshore wind farm facing escalating risks from extreme weather events due to climate change, the most effective strategy involves a continuous feedback loop, where the outcomes of risk treatment and monitoring inform a revised understanding of the risk landscape and the effectiveness of existing controls. This iterative process, often termed dynamic risk management, ensures that the organization's risk appetite and tolerance are continually reassessed against evolving threats and vulnerabilities. The concept of resilience in this context is not merely about withstanding shocks, but about the capacity to absorb, adapt, and transform in the face of disruptive events. Therefore, a risk management framework that actively incorporates learning from near misses, operational data, and updated climate projections to refine risk treatments and enhance adaptive capacity is paramount. This approach aligns with the standard's guidance on integrating risk management into all organizational activities and its iterative nature, where the entire process is subject to continual improvement. Focusing solely on immediate mitigation without a robust mechanism for learning and adaptation would leave the operation vulnerable to unforeseen or escalating climate-related impacts, failing to meet the long-term sustainability and safety objectives inherent in managing complex energy infrastructure. Question 13. Consider an organization implementing a new cloud-based customer relationship management (CRM) system to enhance its sales and marketing operations. This initiative represents a significant organizational change. According to ISO 31000/2018 guidelines, what is the most effective strategy for managing the risks that arise from this CRM system implementation? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment solely before the project's commencement and establish a separate risk register that is updated only at major project milestones. Option B. Focus risk management efforts exclusively on external threats to the new system, such as cybersecurity breaches, and assume internal operational risks will resolve themselves post-implementation. Option C. Delegate all risk management responsibilities for the CRM implementation to the IT department, assuming their technical expertise covers all potential organizational risks. Option D. Embed risk management processes directly into the change management framework for the CRM implementation, treating risk assessment and mitigation as integral components of each project phase. Correct answer is D. Embed risk management processes directly into the change management framework for the CRM implementation, treating risk assessment and mitigation as integral components of each project phase. Explanation: the core principle of ISO 31000/2018 regarding risk management during organizational change is the integration of risk considerations into the change process itself. Clause 5.3.2. Integrating risk management into activities and decision-making emphasizes that risk management should be an integral part of all organizational activities, including strategic planning, operational processes, and importantly, any form of change. When an organization undergoes significant transformation, such as implementing a new enterprise resource planning (ERP) system, numerous risks can emerge or be amplified. These risks are not external to the change itself, but are inherent in the process of introducing something new and disruptive. For instance, Inadequate stakeholder engagement can lead to resistance and adoption issues, which are direct consequences of the change process. Similarly, insufficient training on the new system introduces operational risks. The standard advocates for a proactive approach, where risk assessment and treatment are considered at each stage of the change lifecycle, from initiation to post-implementation review. This ensures that potential negative impacts are identified and mitigated before they materialize or escalate. Therefore, the most effective approach to managing risks associated with change, as per ISO 31000-2018, is to embed risk management activities directly within the change management framework, treating it as an intrinsic component rather than an add-on. This systematic integration allows for continuous identification, analysis, evaluation, and treatment of risks as the change progresses, thereby safeguarding the intended outcomes of the transformation and the overall resilience of the organization. Question 14. Following a comprehensive risk assessment for the upcoming launch of its proprietary Customer Relationship Management (CRM) system, a global logistics firm, Swift Ship Solutions, has identified a significant risk: the potential for critical system failure during peak operational hours, leading to service disruptions and financial penalties. To gain a clearer understanding of the financial exposure, Swift Ship Solutions has opted to employ quantitative risk analysis techniques. What is the paramount objective of applying these quantitative methods to the identified CRM system failure risk? Option A, to identify all possible scenarios that could lead to the risk occurring. Option B, to determine the root causes of the risk through detailed process mapping. Option C, to qualitatively describe the severity of the risk using descriptive scales. Option D, to estimate the potential financial loss associated with the risk event. The correct answer is D, to estimate the potential financial loss associated with the risk event. Explanation: the scenario describes a situation where a risk assessment has been conducted, identifying a potential risk related to a new software deployment. The organization has decided to proceed with a quantitative risk analysis to better understand the financial implications. In quantitative risk analysis, the goal is to assign numerical values to the likelihood and impact of risks. The primary objective is to determine the potential financial loss associated with a risk event. This is typically achieved by estimating the annualized loss expectancy, ALE, which is calculated by multiplying the single loss expectancy, SLE, by the annualized rate of occurrence, ARO. The SLE represents the monetary value of a single loss event, and the ARO represents how many times that event is expected to occur in a year. Therefore, the most direct and appropriate output of a quantitative risk analysis, particularly when focused on financial implications, is the estimation of potential financial losses. The question asks about the primary purpose of applying quantitative analysis to a specific risk identified in the assessment. Quantitative analysis aims to move beyond qualitative descriptions to measurable data, enabling better prioritization and resource allocation based on expected financial outcomes. It provides a more objective basis for decision-making compared to qualitative methods. The core of quantitative risk analysis in this context is to determine the monetary value of the risk. Question 15. Consider the ongoing efforts of a multinational logistics firm, Global Freight Forwarders, to adapt its risk management framework in response to evolving international trade regulations and the increasing prevalence of cyber threats. Which of the following best describes the primary objective of their risk monitoring activities as guided by ISO 31000-2018? Option A. Confirm that all previously documented risks have been completely eliminated through implemented treatment plans. Option B. To ensure the continued relevance and effectiveness of the risk management framework and its treatments in light of changing internal and external contexts. Option C. To solely identify instances where risk controls have failed to prevent negative outcomes, enabling immediate corrective action. Option D. To generate detailed reports on the historical frequency of all identified risks, irrespective of their current impact or likelihood. The correct answer is B. To ensure the continued relevance and effectiveness of the risk management framework and its treatments in light of changing internal and external contexts. Explanation: the core principle of risk monitoring within ISO 31000-2018 is to ensure that the risk management process remains effective and relevant. This involves systematically checking and observing the risk landscape, the controls in place, and the overall progress of the risk management framework. Effective monitoring isn't just about looking for deviations. It's about understanding changes in context, the performance of risk treatments, and whether the identified risks are still valid or if new risks have emerged. It also involves assessing the continued suitability and effectiveness of the risk management framework itself. When considering the impact of external factors, such as new regulatory requirements or shifts in market dynamics, the monitoring process must be dynamic. It should facilitate the identification of new risks or changes to existing ones, which in turn informs the review and adjustment of the risk management plan and treatments. This continuous feedback loop is crucial for maintaining an adaptive and robust risk management system that aligns with the organization's objectives and its evolving environment. The purpose is not merely to detect failures, but to foster improvement and ensure the ongoing relevance and efficacy of risk management activities. Question 16. An organization operating in a highly regulated sector experiences a sudden and severe disruption due to a nation-state-sponsored cyber attack that renders its primary data centers inoperable for an extended period. According to the principles outlined in ISO 31000-2018, what fundamental aspect of the risk management framework is most critical for ensuring the organization's continued operation and resilience during and after such a disruptive event? Option A. The establishment of a dedicated crisis management team that operates independently from the established risk management committee and reporting structures. Option B. The explicit integration of risk management into the organization's governance, strategy, and decision-making processes, ensuring business continuity is a recognized component of its risk appetite and objectives. Option C. The exclusive focus on technical recovery procedures and the immediate restoration of IT infrastructure, with secondary consideration for broader business processes. Option D. The comprehensive documentation of all past cybersecurity incidents and their immediate impact assessments, regardless of their severity or relevance to current operations. The correct answer is B. The explicit integration of risk management into the organization's governance, strategy, and decision-making processes, ensuring business continuity, is a recognized component of its risk appetite and objectives. Explanation. The core principle of ISO 31000-2018 regarding business continuity in the face of disruption centers on integrating risk management into the organization's overall governance and strategic objectives. Specifically, the standard emphasizes that the effectiveness of risk management is enhanced when it is a fundamental part of an organization's culture, processes, and decision-making. When considering a significant disruption, such as a cyber attack that incapacitates core IT systems, an organization must ensure that its risk management framework actively supports its resilience and continuity plans. This involves not just identifying and assessing the risk of the cyber attack, but also ensuring that the controls and mitigation strategies implemented are robust and that contingency plans are well-defined and tested. The standard promotes a proactive approach, where the organization anticipates potential disruptions and builds capabilities to respond and recover. This proactive integration means that business continuity is not an isolated function, but is woven into the fabric of how the organization manages its risks and pursues its objectives. The focus is on ensuring that the organization can continue to deliver its critical functions, even under adverse conditions, thereby protecting its stakeholders and reputation. This requires a clear understanding of critical processes, their dependencies, and the potential impact of their interruption. The risk management framework provides the structure for identifying, analyzing, evaluating, treating, and monitoring these risks, including those that threaten business continuity. Question 17. Considering the foundational principles of ISO 31000-2018, which element is identified as the most critical enabler for the successful integration and effectiveness of risk management practices throughout an organization's governance, strategy, and operations? Option A. The development of a comprehensive risk register that meticulously documents all identified risks and their potential impacts. Option B. The establishment of a dedicated risk management department with specialized personnel responsible for overseeing all risk-related activities. Option C. The active commitment and involvement of top management in establishing and promoting the risk management framework and processes. Option D. the implementation of advanced quantitative risk analysis techniques to precisely measure the probability and consequence of all identified risks. The correct answer is C. The active commitment and involvement of top management in establishing and promoting the risk management framework and processes. Explanation: the core principle of ISO 31000-2018 is that risk management is an integral part of an organization's governance and leadership. It is not a standalone activity, but rather embedded within all organizational processes and decision-making. This integration ensures that risk management is proactive, systematic, and contributes to achieving objectives. The standard emphasizes that the effectiveness of risk management is directly influenced by the commitment and involvement of top management. Without this leadership, risk management efforts are likely to be superficial, disconnected from strategic goals, and ultimately ineffective. The framework for risk management, as outlined in the standard, includes principles, a framework, and a process. The framework provides the structure for integrating risk management into the organization's governance, strategy, and operations. This integration, driven by leadership, is crucial for establishing a risk-aware culture and ensuring that risk management activities are aligned with the organization's context and objectives. The standard also highlights the importance of communication and consultation, monitoring and review, and the continual improvement of the risk management process. However, the foundational element that underpins all these aspects is the commitment and involvement of top management in establishing and promoting an effective risk management system. Question 18. A multinational corporation operating under stringent environmental regulations such as the EU's REACH registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals is implementing a new risk management framework aligned with ISO 31000-2018. During the risk identification phase, the technical team in the European subsidiary reports a potential compliance risk related to a new chemical compound. However, the corporate headquarters, located in a region with less developed environmental oversight, dismisses the concern due to a perceived lack of quantifiable data and a differing interpretation of the regulatory intent. This situation exemplifies a significant breakdown in risk communication. Which of the following best describes the primary communication barrier hindering effective risk management in this scenario, as per the principles of ISO 31000-2018? Option A. Insufficient frequency of risk reporting from the subsidiary to the headquarters. Option B. Over-reliance on qualitative risk assessment methods by the subsidiary's technical team. Option C. Lack of standardized risk assessment tools across different geographical locations. Option D. Disparate interpretations of regulatory requirements and differing risk appetites between organizational units. The correct answer is D. Disparate interpretations of regulatory requirements and differing risk appetites between organizational units. Explanation: ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that effective risk management requires open and transparent communication throughout the entire process. Communication barriers can significantly impede the ability of an organization to identify, analyze, treat, and monitor risks. These barriers can arise from various sources, including organizational culture, differing perspectives, lack of clarity in language, insufficient feedback mechanisms, and information overload. For instance, if risk information is presented in overly technical jargon to stakeholders who are not familiar with such terminology, comprehension will be limited, hindering informed decision-making. Similarly, a culture that discourages the reporting of near misses or potential risks due to fear of reprisal will create a significant communication bottleneck. The standard advocates for establishing clear communication channels, ensuring that information is relevant, timely, and understandable to all relevant parties. It also highlights the importance of two-way communication, where feedback is actively sought and incorporated. Addressing these barriers is crucial for building a robust risk management framework that is integrated into the organization's activities and decision-making processes. The core principle is that risk management is a shared responsibility, and effective communication underpins this collaborative approach. Question 19. A multinational electronics manufacturer is assessing the potential risks and opportunities arising from a recently ratified international trade accord that significantly alters import duties and regulatory compliance standards for its key components and finished products. considering the PESTLE framework as a method to understand the external context, which two categories within PESTLE would most directly and immediately capture the primary impacts of this trade agreement on the company's operations and strategic planning, according to the principles of ISO 31000-2018 regarding context establishment. Option A, social and technological. Option B, technological and social. Option C, political and environmental. Option D, legal and economic. Correct answer is D, legal and economic. Explanation: the PESTLE analysis framework, while not explicitly mandated by ISO 31000-2018, serves as a valuable tool for identifying and understanding the external context of an organization, which is a fundamental requirement of the standard. ISO 31000 emphasizes the importance of understanding the organization's external environment to establish the scope and context for risk management. PESTLE categorizes external factors into political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental influences. When considering the impact of a new international trade agreement on a manufacturing firm, the most direct and significant implications would likely stem from the legal and economic dimensions. Legal aspects would encompass changes in tariffs, import/export regulations, and compliance requirements stipulated by the agreement. Economic factors would involve currency fluctuations, market access, changes in supply chain costs, and potential shifts in consumer demand due to pricing adjustments influenced by the trade pact. While social, technological, and environmental factors might be indirectly affected, the immediate and primary impact of a trade agreement is typically rooted in its legal and economic stipulations. Therefore, focusing on the legal and economic elements of PESTLE provides the most pertinent analysis for this scenario. Question 20. When evaluating the effectiveness of an organization's risk management framework as per ISO 31000-2018, what is the primary objective of the communication and consultation activities embedded within the process, beyond simply informing stakeholders? Option A, to ensure that the risk management process is responsive to stakeholder concerns and that decisions are informed by their diverse perspectives and knowledge. Option B, to disseminate risk management policies and procedures to all employees to ensure consistent application across the organization. Option C, to formally document all risk-related decisions and actions taken by management to comply with regulatory reporting requirements. Option D, to solicit feedback on the efficiency of risk control measures to identify opportunities for cost reduction in risk mitigation efforts. The correct answer is A, to ensure that the risk management process is responsive to stakeholder concerns and that decisions are informed by their diverse perspectives and knowledge. Explanation: ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that communication and consultation are integral throughout the entire risk management process, not merely a separate activity. The purpose is to provide, share, or obtain information and engage in dialogue. This continuous engagement with internal and external stakeholders ensures that risk management decisions are informed by diverse perspectives and that the process itself remains relevant and effective. Effective communication and consultation contribute to building trust, understanding, and support for risk management activities. It allows for the timely identification of risks, the development of appropriate controls, and the effective implementation of risk treatment plans. Furthermore, it facilitates the review and improvement of the risk management framework and its outcomes. The iterative nature of risk management, as depicted in the standards model, underscores the constant need for dialogue and information exchange to adapt to changing contexts and stakeholder expectations. This process is crucial for ensuring that the organization's risk appetite and tolerance levels are understood and respected across all levels. Question 21. A multinational logistics firm, Global Transit Solutions, has been experiencing a gradual but persistent rise in minor operational disruptions across its European network over the past 2 years. These disruptions, individually classified as low impact, include localized delays due to unforeseen infrastructure issues, intermittent IT system glitches affecting dispatch, and minor discrepancies in customs documentation. While each incident is managed reactively and resolved without significant financial loss, a senior risk analyst has observed a qualitative similarity in the root causes and contributing factors across these disparate events. What fundamental risk management activity, as guided by ISO 2018. Should global transit solutions prioritize to effectively address this emerging pattern of low-impact disruptions before they coalesce into more substantial risks? Option A. Immediately implementing a comprehensive overhaul of all IT systems and infrastructure across the European network to eliminate all potential points of failure. Option B. Conducting a series of high-level workshops with senior management to discuss the overall risk appetite and strategic objectives without delving into specific operational patterns. Option C. Focusing solely on the financial impact of each individual disruption to ensure that mitigation costs do not exceed the immediate loss incurred. Option D. Systematically analyzing historical incident data and external environmental factors to identify underlying systemic causes and forecast potential future escalations of these recurring issues. Correct answer is D. Systematically analyzing historical incident data and external environmental factors to identify underlying systemic causes and forecast potential future escalations of these recurring issues. Explanation. The core principle being tested here is the proactive identification of emerging risks by analyzing historical data and current events for recurring patterns and developing trends. ISO 31000, 2018 emphasizes the iterative nature of risk management, which includes learning from past experiences and anticipating future possibilities. Identifying patterns and trends is a crucial component of the establish the context and risk identification processes, enabling an organization to move beyond merely reacting to known risks and towards a more forward-looking and strategic approach. This involves systematically reviewing incident reports, audit findings, market intelligence, regulatory changes, and stakeholder feedback to detect systemic issues or nascent threats that might otherwise go unnoticed. For instance, a consistent increase in customer complaints related to a specific product feature, even if each complaint individually is minor, could indicate a growing trend of product dissatisfaction that, if unaddressed, could escalate into a significant reputational or financial risk. Similarly, observing a gradual shift in regulatory landscapes or technological advancements can highlight future compliance challenges or opportunities for innovation. This analytical approach allows for the development of more robust and anticipatory risk treatment strategies, aligning with the standards guidance on ensuring risk management is integrated into the organization's governance and decision-making processes. The objective is to foster an environment where potential future disruptions are recognized and managed before they materialize into significant impacts. Question 22. A high-precision electronics manufacturer operating under strict quality control mandates from the European Union's RoHS directive and aiming to minimize production downtime to meet just-in-time delivery schedules for its automotive clients, identifies a significant risk of component supply chain disruption due to geopolitical instability in a key sourcing region. This disruption could lead to a halt in production, jeopardizing product quality adherence and delivery commitments. According to ISO 31000, 2018 principles for integrating risk management into organizational processes, which approach to treating this identified supply chain risk would best align with the organization's dual objectives of maintaining quality and ensuring timely delivery. Option A. Renegotiating contract terms with existing suppliers to include penalties for late deliveries, aiming to incentivize them to maintain consistent supply without altering the sourcing strategy. Option B. Increasing inventory levels of critical components to buffer against short-term supply interruptions, accepting the associated carrying costs and potential obsolescence risks. Option C. Implementing a robust quality assurance program at the point of component receipt to detect and reject substandard parts, mitigating the impact of potentially lower quality alternative supplies. Option D. Diversifying the supplier base to include multiple, geographically dispersed vendors for critical components, thereby reducing reliance on a single region and enhancing supply chain resilience. The correct answer is D. Diversifying the supplier base to include multiple, geographically dispersed vendors for critical components, thereby reducing reliance on a single region and enhancing supply chain resilience. Explanation. The question probes the application of ISO 31000, 2018 principles to a specific manufacturing context, focusing on the integration of risk management into the operational decision-making process. ISO 31000, 2018 emphasizes that risk management should be integrated into all organizational activities, including strategic planning, operational processes, and decision-making. In a manufacturing setting, ensuring product quality and compliance with regulatory standards, such as those related to environmental impact or worker safety, are critical objectives. When considering potential disruptions to production that could affect these objectives, the organization must identify, analyze, and evaluate these risks. The effectiveness of the risk treatment plan is paramount. A risk treatment plan should be selected and implemented to modify risk. Treatment options include avoiding, reducing, sharing, or accepting risk. In this scenario, the primary goal is to maintain product quality and regulatory compliance, which are directly impacted by production continuity. Therefore, a risk treatment that focuses on mitigating the likelihood or impact of production disruptions on these critical outcomes is the most appropriate. This involves implementing controls and measures that enhance the resilience of the manufacturing process against identified threats. The core of ISO 31000-2018 is about creating and protecting value, and in manufacturing, this directly translates to reliable production of quality goods that meet market and regulatory demands. The selection of a treatment option should be guided by the evaluation of the risk and the potential benefits of the treatment in relation to the costs and the achievement of organizational objectives. The emphasis is on proactive management rather than reactive responses, aligning with the standard's guidance on embedding risk management into governance and decision-making frameworks. Question 23. An international non-governmental organization, INGO, focused on humanitarian aid, is establishing a new risk management framework aligned with ISO 31000-2018. The INGO operates in several politically unstable regions and relies heavily on local community support and international donor funding. During the risk identification phase, the INGO risk manager, Anya Sharma, is considering how to best incorporate the perspectives of various groups, which approach to stakeholder engagement would most effectively support the INGO objective of developing a comprehensive and relevant risk register, considering its complex operating environment and diverse funding sources. Option A. Conducting a single, comprehensive workshop involving all identified stakeholders to solicit their views on potential risks and mitigation strategies, assuming a unified understanding of risk appetite. Option B. Focusing solely on internal risk assessments conducted by senior management and the board, with external stakeholder input being limited to formal annual reporting requirements. Option C. Implementing a tiered engagement strategy that prioritizes engagement with major donors and government regulatory bodies, while adopting a more passive information-gathering approach for local community members and field staff. Option D. Establishing a continuous, multi-channel engagement process that actively seeks input from local community representatives, field operations personnel, international donors, and national government liaisons, adapting communication methods to suit each group's context and accessibility. Correct answer is C. Implementing a tiered engagement strategy that prioritizes engagement with major donors and government regulatory bodies, while adopting a more passive information-gathering approach for local community members and field staff. Explanation. The process of risk management, as outlined in ISO 31000-2018, emphasizes the crucial role of engaging with stakeholders throughout the entire risk management framework. Stakeholder engagement is not a single event, but an ongoing, iterative process designed to foster understanding, gather diverse perspectives, and ensure that risk management activities are relevant and effective. ISO 31000-2018, in its principles and guidelines, highlights that successful risk management requires considering the needs and expectations of all relevant parties. This includes identifying who is affected by decisions, who can influence the outcomes, and who has an interest in the organization's activities. Effective engagement involves understanding their viewpoints, concerns, and the potential impact of risks on them. It facilitates the collection of comprehensive information for risk identification and assessment, aids in the development of appropriate risk treatments, and supports the communication and consultation phases. The standard advocates for a tailored approach to engagement, recognizing that different stakeholders will have varying levels of interest and influence, and thus require different communication strategies and involvement methods. This inclusive approach helps to build trust, enhance the legitimacy of risk management decisions, and ultimately improve the organization's resilience and ability to achieve its objectives. The core idea is that risk management is a shared responsibility, and that involving those with a stake leads to more robust and accepted outcomes. Question 24. An international humanitarian aid organization, Global Reach, has established a comprehensive risk management framework aligned with ISO 31000-2018. Following a series of successful aid deliveries in a volatile region, the internal audit team conducted a post-project review. The review identified that while the immediate risks to personnel and assets during transit were effectively managed, there was a missed opportunity to proactively engage with local community leaders to mitigate potential social unrest risks that later impacted distribution efficiency. This oversight was attributed to a lack of a formalized feedback loop between field operations and the Central Risk Management Committee regarding emerging socio-political dynamics. Considering the principles of continuous improvement within ISO 31000-2018, what is the most appropriate action for Global Reach to enhance its risk management framework in response to this finding? Option A. Increase the frequency of on-site risk assessments conducted by the Central Risk Management Committee in similar volatile regions to ensure direct observation of all potential risks. Option B. Mandate additional training for all field staff on advanced risk identification techniques, assuming the primary issue is their ability to foresee emerging risks. Option C. Revise the risk register to include a broader category of social unrest, without implementing specific mechanisms to gather dynamic information from the ground. Option D. Establish a structured process for collecting and analyzing feedback from field operations on the effectiveness of risk controls and the emergence of new risk factors, and integrate this into regular risk reviews. The correct answer is D. Establish a structured process for collecting and analyzing feedback from field operations on the effectiveness of risk controls and the emergence of new risk factors, and integrate this into regular risk reviews. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that risk management is a dynamic process that requires continuous improvement. This is achieved through monitoring, review, and feedback mechanisms. The standard posits that the effectiveness of the risk management framework and its integration into organizational activities are subject to ongoing assessment. Specifically, the checking and improving aspects of the management system cycle, often represented as Plan-Do-Check Act, are crucial for ensuring that risk management remains relevant and efficient. Feedback and learning from both successes and failures in risk management activities are essential for adapting to changing internal and external contexts. This involves not only reviewing the outcomes of risk treatments, but also the processes used to identify, analyze, and evaluate risks. The objective is to enhance the organization's ability to achieve its objectives by managing risks effectively. Therefore, the core of continuous improvement in risk management lies in the systematic evaluation of the risk management process itself and the subsequent implementation of changes based on the insights gained. This iterative enhancement ensures that the risk management framework evolves with the organization and its environment, thereby increasing its value and contribution to sustainable success. Question 25. A multinational technology firm, Cygnus Solutions, is developing a new cloud-based service that will process personal data of individuals in over 50 countries. To ensure robust risk management aligned with ISO 31000-2018, what is the most critical step the firm must undertake regarding the diverse legal and regulatory landscape governing data privacy and security across these jurisdictions? Option A. Proactively map all applicable data privacy and security laws and regulations in each operational jurisdiction and integrate their specific compliance requirements into the risk assessment and treatment plans. Option B. Rely solely on the legal department to monitor and interpret international data protection statutes, assuming their guidance will be automatically incorporated into the risk management process. Option C. Prioritize compliance with the strictest international data privacy law, assuming this will inherently satisfy all other relevant regulations due to the principle of extraterritoriality. Option D. Focus risk management efforts on operational risks and cybersecurity threats, considering legal and regulatory compliance as a secondary concern to be addressed only if a specific breach occurs. The correct answer is A. Proactively map all applicable data privacy and security laws and regulations in each operational jurisdiction and integrate their specific compliance requirements into the risk assessment and treatment plans. Explanation: ISO 31000, 2018 emphasizes that risk management processes should consider and align with applicable legal, regulatory, and contractual obligations. When a global manufacturing firm, Ethelred Industries, operates in multiple jurisdictions, each with distinct environmental protection statutes and data privacy laws, e.g., GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, the organization's risk management framework must actively integrate these requirements. This involves identifying relevant legislation, assessing the potential for non-compliance as a risk event, and establishing controls to ensure adherence. The effectiveness of the risk management system is partly measured by its ability to prevent regulatory breaches, which could lead to significant fines, reputational damage, and operational disruptions. Therefore, the proactive integration of legal and regulatory compliance into the risk assessment and treatment phases is paramount. This ensures that identified risks are not only managed from a business perspective, but also from a standpoint of legal and ethical responsibility. The framework's success hinges on its capacity to embed these external mandates into internal risk appetite and tolerance levels, thereby fostering a culture of compliance that permeates all organizational activities. Question 26. Consider an established multinational logistics firm, Global Freightways, which has recently encountered unexpected disruptions in its supply chain due to geopolitical shifts and climate-related events. The firm's senior leadership is committed to leveraging its risk management framework, aligned with ISO 31000, 2018, not merely to mitigate these immediate crises, but to proactively enhance its long-term resilience and operational efficiency. Which of the following strategic orientations, when embedded within Global Freightways' risk management approach, would most effectively facilitate the organization's continual improvement in adapting to such volatile external conditions? Option A. Establishing a dedicated risk management innovation unit tasked with exploring novel risk financing mechanisms and insurance products to cover potential future losses arising from unforeseen global events. Option B. Implementing a comprehensive audit of all existing risk treatment plans to ensure strict adherence to regulatory compliance mandates outlined in international trade agreements and environmental protection laws. Option C. Prioritizing the systematic review of risk management performance data to identify recurring patterns of control failures and strategic decision-making gaps, using these insights to refine risk appetite statements and update the risk register with forward-looking scenarios. Option D. Focusing on the development of a robust crisis communication strategy that emphasizes transparency with stakeholders during immediate operational disruptions, ensuring all public statements are pre-approved by legal counsel. The correct answer is C. Prioritizing the systematic review of risk management performance data to identify recurring patterns of control failures and strategic decision-making gaps, using these insights to refine risk appetite statements and update the risk register with forward-looking scenarios. Explanation: ISO 31000, 2018 emphasizes that risk management is an integral part of an organization's governance and leadership, and its effectiveness is directly linked to the organization's ability to achieve its objectives and foster continual improvement. The standard outlines that the integration of risk management into all organizational activities, including strategic planning, decision-making, and operational processes, is crucial for enhancing performance. This integration allows for the identification of opportunities and threats, enabling proactive responses that can lead to innovation and competitive advantage. Furthermore, the framework for managing risk, as described in the standard, supports the establishment of a risk management culture where individuals at all levels are aware of and engaged in managing risks. This cultural aspect, coupled with the systematic review and evaluation of risk management performance, provides feedback mechanisms that inform adjustments and enhancements to both the risk management processes and the overall organizational strategy. The principle of continual improvement is embedded within the iterative nature of the risk management process itself, where learning from past experiences, monitoring the risk landscape, and adapting strategies based on new information are fundamental to strengthening the organization's resilience and adaptability in a dynamic environment. This cyclical process of planning, implementing, reviewing, and improving ensures that risk management remains relevant and effective in supporting the organization's evolving goals and challenges. Question 27. Consider an international conglomerate, Global Dynamics Inc., which operates in sectors ranging from advanced manufacturing to digital services. The board of directors is tasked with formalizing the organization's risk appetite statement in accordance with ISO 31000-2018. Which of the following approaches would most effectively ensure the statement is robust, actionable, and reflective of the organization's multifaceted objectives and the external environment, including relevant regulatory considerations such as GDPR for data handling and environmental regulations in manufacturing hubs? Option A. Focus primarily on financial metrics and potential losses, as this is the most quantifiable aspect of risk and most directly impacts shareholder value. Option B. Prioritize the mitigation of all identified risks to the lowest possible level, thereby establishing a highly conservative risk appetite that minimizes potential negative outcomes. Option C. Develop a statement that comprehensively integrates strategic objectives, operational capabilities, financial capacity, ethical considerations, and compliance requirements across all business units, informed by stakeholder input and senior leadership consensus. Option D. Create a generic statement that outlines a general willingness to take risks, leaving specific interpretations to individual department heads to foster decentralized decision-making. The correct answer is C. Develop a statement that comprehensively integrates strategic objectives, operational capabilities, financial capacity, ethical considerations, and compliance requirements across all business units, informed by stakeholder input and senior leadership consensus. Explanation. The core of establishing risk appetite and tolerance within an organization, as guided by ISO 31000-2018, involves aligning these concepts with the entity's objectives and the broader context of its operations. Risk appetite defines the amount and type of risk an organization is willing to pursue or retain to achieve its objectives. Risk tolerance, conversely, specifies the acceptable level of variation around the risk appetite. When considering the development of a risk appetite statement, an organization must look beyond mere financial metrics. It needs to encompass strategic, operational, compliance, and reputational dimensions. The process requires input from top management and consideration of stakeholder expectations, legal and regulatory frameworks, such as those governing data privacy or environmental impact, depending on the industry, and the organization's capacity to manage risks. The statement should be clear, actionable, and integrated into decision-making processes. It is not a static document but a dynamic guide that evolves with the organization's circumstances and strategic direction. Therefore, the most effective approach to developing a risk appetite statement is to ensure it is a comprehensive reflection of the organization's strategic goals, operational realities, and the broader risk landscape, thereby providing a robust framework for risk-taking and decision-making. Question 28. A multinational logistics firm, Trans Global Freight, is conducting its annual risk assessment, focusing on potential disruptions to its global supply chain. They are particularly concerned about the impact of geopolitical instability in a key transit region. When determining the likelihood of a significant disruption event, what fundamental principle, as guided by ISO 31000-2018, should be paramount in their approach to ensure comparability and informed decision-making across different potential disruption scenarios? Option A. Ensuring the methodology for estimating likelihood is consistent and based on defined criteria, whether qualitative or quantitative, allowing for meaningful comparison across various identified risks. Option B. Implementing a complex statistical model that requires extensive historical data, even if such data is incomplete for certain emerging geopolitical scenarios. Option C. Prioritizing expert opinions from regional managers over statistical data, as they possess on-the-ground insights into local political dynamics. Option D. Focusing solely on the most severe potential consequences, as this will inherently drive a higher perceived likelihood of disruption. The correct answer is A. Ensuring the methodology for estimating likelihood is consistent and based on defined criteria, whether qualitative or quantitative, allowing for meaningful comparison across various identified risks. Explanation. ISO 2018 emphasizes that the determination of likelihood and consequence is a critical step in the risk assessment process, which forms a core component of an effective risk management framework. Likelihood refers to the probability or frequency of a specific event occurring, while consequence relates to the impact or outcome if that event does occur. These two elements are combined to estimate the level of risk. The standard highlights that the method for determining likelihood and consequence should be appropriate to the context and objectives of the organization. This involves considering various factors such as historical data, expert judgment, statistical modeling, and prevailing conditions. The chosen method should allow for consistent and comparable risk assessment across different risks. For instance, when assessing the likelihood of a cyber attack, an organization might consider the frequency of similar attacks in their industry, the sophistication of known threat actors targeting their sector, and the effectiveness of their current cybersecurity defenses. For consequence, they might evaluate the potential financial losses, reputational damage, operational disruption, or regulatory penalties. The determination is not purely subjective. It should be based on evidence and logical reasoning, even when dealing with qualitative assessments. The goal is to provide a robust foundation for informed decision-making regarding risk treatment. Question 29. Consider an organization that has diligently implemented a comprehensive risk management framework aligned with ISO 31000-2018, including risk identification, analysis, evaluation, and treatment. Despite this, the organization continues to experience unforeseen disruptions that significantly impact its strategic objectives, and internal audits reveal a disconnect between the documented risk management procedures and their actual application in day-to-day operations. What fundamental aspect of risk management effectiveness, as espoused by ISO 31000-2018, is most likely being overlooked in this scenario? Option A. The integration of risk management into the organization's governance, strategy, and operations. Option B. The establishment of a clear and measurable risk appetite statement. Option C. The comprehensive documentation of all identified risks and their potential impacts. Option D. The regular review and updating of risk treatment plans. Correct answer is A. The integration of risk management into the organization's governance, strategy, and operations. Explanation. ISO 31000-2018 emphasizes that the effectiveness of a risk management framework and process is not static, but requires ongoing evaluation and improvement. This evaluation should consider whether the risk management activities are achieving their intended outcomes, contributing to the organization's objectives, and are integrated into the organization's governance, strategy, and operations. Key indicators of effectiveness include the extent to which risk appetite is understood and adhered to, the quality and timeliness of risk information used for decision-making, the degree of stakeholder engagement in risk management, and the demonstrable reduction in the likelihood or impact of significant risks. Furthermore, the standard promotes a culture where risk is considered openly and constructively. When assessing effectiveness, an organization should look beyond mere compliance with procedures and focus on the tangible impact of risk management on achieving objectives and fostering resilience. This involves reviewing the risk management policy, the integration of risk management into organizational processes, the allocation of resources, and the competence of personnel involved. The process should also consider feedback mechanisms and the continuous improvement of the risk management framework itself. The ultimate goal is to ensure that risk management is a valuable and dynamic part of the organization's overall management system, supporting informed decision-making and enhancing performance. Question 30. Consider an established multinational corporation, Ethelred Dynamics, which has historically operated with siloed risk assessment functions within its legal, compliance, and operational departments. Following a significant regulatory breach that resulted in substantial financial penalties and reputational damage, the Executive Board has mandated a comprehensive overhaul of its risk management approach, aiming for full integration as espoused by ISO 31000-2018. Which of the following strategic initiatives would most effectively embed risk management principles across Ethelred Dynamics' entire value chain, fostering a proactive risk-aware culture and ensuring that risk is a constant consideration in all decision-making, rather than an afterthought? Option A. Implementing a new, sophisticated risk management software system that aggregates risk data from all departments, enabling centralized reporting and automated alerts for potential compliance issues, while also conducting annual risk workshops for senior management. Option B, establishing a dedicated, cross-functional risk management committee with representation from all major business units and functions, tasked with developing enterprise-wide risk policies and overseeing their consistent application, coupled with mandatory risk awareness training for all employees and the explicit inclusion of risk management responsibilities in performance appraisals. Option C, focusing solely on enhancing the internal audit function to identify and report on risk control deficiencies, thereby providing assurance to the board that risks are being adequately managed within existing departmental frameworks. Option D, appointing a Chief Risk Officer, CRO, to champion risk management initiatives, decentralizing risk assessment responsibilities to individual department heads, and encouraging the sharing of best practices through an internal online forum. The correct answer is B, establishing a dedicated, cross-functional risk management committee with representation from all major business units and functions, tasked with developing enterprise-wide risk policies and overseeing their consistent application, coupled with mandatory risk awareness training for all employees and the explicit inclusion of risk management responsibilities in performance appraisals. Explanation: ISO 31000/2018 emphasizes that risk management should be integrated into an organization's governance, decision-making, processes, and culture. Integration means that risk management is not a standalone activity, but is embedded within all organizational activities. This ensures that risk considerations are part of the strategic planning, operational execution, and performance monitoring. For effective integration, the organization's commitment from leadership is crucial, establishing a risk-aware culture where individuals at all levels understand their role in managing risks. The standard also highlights that integration involves adapting risk management principles to the specific context of the organization, ensuring it aligns with its objectives, values, and overall business strategy. This means that the risk management framework and processes are not imposed externally, but are designed to fit naturally within the existing organizational structures and operational flows, thereby enhancing the likelihood of successful implementation and achieving the desired risk management outcomes. This seamless incorporation supports better decision-making by providing relevant risk information at the appropriate stages of any activity or process.